Hi, second grade. I'm going to read to you guys your next 3 chapters in The Magic Tree House, The Day of the Dragon King. We're going to read chapters 4, 5, and 6 today, since we read 1 through 3 last week. I hope you guys are liking these videos, and I really hope you're watching. So we're going to start on chapter 4, The Great Wall. If you need a recap of what we read last week, go back to the other video and listen to like the last 30 seconds of that one so you get caught up. Jack and Annie ran around the farmhouse. At the back was an ox cart filled with bags of grain. There was no one in sight. The shouting behind them got louder. Jack and Annie looked at each other, then dived into the back of the wooden cart. They buried themselves in the middle of the bags of grain. Jack's heart pounded as the shouts came closer. He held his breath and waited for the people to leave. Suddenly, the cart lurched forward. Someone was driving them away. Jack and Annie peeked over the bags. Jack saw the back of the driver. He was calmly steering the ox cart over the dirt road. They were on their way to the walled city. Jack and Annie ducked down again. "This is great," whispered Annie. "All we have to do is jump out when we get into the city." So there they are. That's the walled city. "Yep," Jack said softly. "Then we'll find the Imperial Library, find the book, and get back to the Magic Tree House." "No problem," whispered Annie. Whoa! The cart slowly came to a halt. Jack held his breath. He heard voices and the heavy tramping of feet. Lots of feet. He and Annie peeked out. "Oh, man," he whispered. A long line of men was crossing the road in front of the cart. They carried axes, shovels, and hoes. Guards marched alongside them. "Let's find out what's happening," said Jack. He reached into his sack and pulled out the china book. Pushing his glasses into place, he found a picture of the workers. He read, "The Dragon King forced many of his subjects to start building a wall to protect China from invaders. Later, emperors made the wall even longer. Finally, it stretched 3,700 miles along China's border. The Great Wall of China is the longest structure ever built." "Whoa, that's the Great Wall of China," said Jack. "I've heard of that," said Annie. "Who hasn't?" said Jack. "Those guys are going to work on it right now." Just then, someone grabbed Jack and Annie. They looked up. It was the driver of the cart. "Who are you?" he asked angrily. Jack didn't know what to say. The man's gaze fell on the open book in Jack's hands. His mouth dropped open. He let go of Jack and Annie. Slowly, he reached out and touched the book. He looked back at Jack and Annie with wide eyes. "What is this?" he said. Now remember, books in China were made from bamboo. And so he's never seen a book like this before, so he probably was freaking out. Chapter 5, The Scholar. That's you guys. "It's a book from our country," said Jack. "Your books are made of bamboo, but ours are made of paper. Actually, your country invented paper, but later in the future," the man looked confused. "Never mind," said Andy. "It's for reading. It's for learning about faraway places." The man stared at them. Tears filled his eyes. "What's wrong?" Annie asked softly. "I love reading and learning," he said. "So do I," said Jack. The man smiled. "You don't understand. I'm dressed as a farmer," he said, "but in truth, I'm a scholar." "What's a scholar?" said Annie. "We are great readers, learners, and writers," he said. We have long been the most honored citizens in China." The scholar's smile faded. "But now scholars are in danger," he said, "and many of us have gone into hiding." "Why?" said Jack. "The Dragon King is afraid of the power of our books and learning," said the scholar. "He wants people to think only what he wants them to think. Any day he may order the burning of books." Annie gasped. "Does that mean what I think it means?" said Jack. The scholar nodded. "All the books in the Imperial Library will be burned," he said. "That's rotten," said Annie. "Indeed, it is," the scholar said quietly. "Listen, we have a mission to get a book from that library," said Jack. "Who are you?" asked the scholar. "Show him," said Annie. She reached into her shirt pocket as Jack reached into his sack. They brought out the secret library cards. The letters shimmered in the sunlight. The scholar's mouth dropped open again. You are master librarians?" he said. I have never met one. So honored you were so young." He bowed to show his respect. "Thank you," said Jack and Annie. So there they are showing him their master librarian cards. They bowed back to him. "How can I help you?" asked the scholar. We need to go to the Imperial Library and find this book, said Jack. He held out Morgan's bamboo strip to the scholar. We will go to the Imperial Library, said the scholar. As for the story, I know it well. It is a true one, written not long ago, but I warn you, we will be in great danger. We know, said Annie. The scholar smiled. I'm happy to be doing something I believe in again, said the scholar. Let us go. They all climbed into the front of the cart. The long line of wall builders was marching in the distance. As the oxen started forward, the scholar turned to Jack and Annie. Where are you from? He asked. Oh, Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, said Annie. I have never heard of that, said the scholar. Do they have a library there? Oh, sure, there's a library in every town, said Jack. In fact, there are probably thousands of libraries in our country. And millions of books, said Annie, and no one burns them. Right, said Jack. Everyone gets to go to school to learn to read them. The scholar stared at him and shook his head. It sounds like paradise, he said. So this poor guy, he's disguised as a farmer because the Dragon King is so evil. He doesn't want anyone learning anything because he wants everyone to learn what he wants them to learn. So he's going to burn all the books and he's going to change all the teachings so it's what he wants people to teach. So all these scholars have to live in hiding. Chapter 6, The Dragon King. The ox cart bumped across the wooden bridge that crossed over a moat. Then it passed guards standing by giant wooden gates. Are the gates ever closed? Jack asked. Oh, yes, every day at sunset, said the scholar. When the gong sounds, the gates close. The bridge comes up and the city is sealed shut for the night. I guess visitors have to leave before that happens, Annie said, or they'll be stuck here for the whole night, right? Yes, said the scholar. The cart bumped between the city gates. Rows of small houses were bunched together on either side of the street. They were made of mud with straw roofs. People cooked over outdoor fires. They washed their clothes in wooden tubs. As the ox cart bumped along, the houses got larger. These were made of painted wood and pottery tiles. They all had curved roofs. Why are those roofs like that? Asked Jack. To keep away the bad spirits, said the scholar. How do they do that? Said Annie. The spirits can only travel in straight lines, said the scholar. Wow, whispered Annie. The car went by some open tea shops, then it passed a large market square filled with stalls and shoppers. People were buying and selling fish, chickens, firewood, wagon wheels, silk cloths, furs, and jade jewelry. Some people were lined up at a stall filled with tiny cages. Jade jewelry is like pretty green, like rocks, kind of like emeralds. What's for sale there? Said Annie. Crickets, the scholar said. They make good pets. You can feed them tea leaves and enjoy their delicate song. The cart moved on toward the Dragon King's walled palace. They stopped in front of the palace gates. Grain delivery, the scholar shouted up to the guard at the tower. The guard waved them through. Inside were beautiful gardens and huge mounds of earth surrounded by a low brick wall. That is the Imperial burial ground, said the scholar, pointing at the mounds. Who's buried there? Asked Jack. The ancestors of the Dragon King, said the scholar. What are ancestors? Annie asked. They are the people in your family who lived before you, said the scholar. Someday the Dragon King himself will be buried there. 300,000 workers have been building his burial tomb. Oh, man, said Jack. He looked over his shoulder at the burial grounds. He wondered why it took so many workers to build a tomb. No, said the scholar. Jack whirled around. What's wrong? He asked. The scholar pointed at the palace courtyard. A dark cloud of smoke was rising into the sky. Fire, said the scholar. The books, said Jack. Hurry, said Annie. The scholar snapped the reins. The oxen trotted up the stone path. When the cart rolled into the courtyard, soldiers were everywhere. Some threw wood on a huge bonfire. Others were carrying bamboo strips down the steep stairs that led from the palace. Are those the books? Asked Jack. Yes, the strips are tied together into different bundles, moaned the scholar. Each bundle is a book. Look, said Annie, pointing to the palace entrance. Stepping outside was a man in a rich, flowing robe and a tall hat. Jack knew him at once. The Dragon King. So we're going to stop there. You just got to wait till next week. We'll have to see if they burn the books and if they can stop them in time. All right, I'm going to go make the math videos for this week. I'll see you guys later. Bye.